Welcome back to my fourth video on the series of batch programming. In the previous video, we learned about setting variables, and we also learned about changing the variables, changing number variables inside the batch program. In today's video, we'll be learning about set/p, which lets us input our own variables inside of the batch program. So let's get into the video. So if we look at set/p, what we've learned is set/a lets us change the variables, change the variable numbers, and then what we could learn in set/p is set/p lets us input whatever we want. So instead of saying set x equal to 10, it's gonna let us automatically write it inside the batch file, and change it to whatever we want it to equal to. So instead of us closing the program and then reopening it back up and changing the variable, we could change the variable every single time inside of the batch file. So how we do that is we do set/p, and then we put our variable, so x, any other variable, equal to anything we want. So what this command lets us do is it lets us write any sort of text as long as we want, and it pauses it for us, and it waits for us to write everything we want, and then as soon as we press enter, it unpauses, and it sets x equal to whatever we wrote. So it sets the variable x equal to whatever we wrote in the batch file. So if we just make a simple program, at echo off, and then we do set/p x equal to whatever we want, and then we do echo the variable x, it should show us what we wrote down, and then it should pause. So what happens if we try this? It shows a blank page, and then we could write whatever we want, as long as we want, whatever we want, and then as soon as we press enter, it's gonna set x equal to whatever we wrote. So if we wrote hello and we hit enter, it's gonna set x equal to that. And then if we remember, we wrote echo what x equals, so it shows us what we wrote, so what the variable x actually equals, and since we set it ourselves, it's gonna show what we wrote. So this is helpful in, like, if we were trying to create a little game, and you could set your name into the game. So after we do the variable equal to, we could put in pretty much anything we want, and it's gonna echo that. So let me show you guys. So if we write, what do you want your name to be? So it doesn't actually set the variable x equal to what do you want your name to be. It just asks us, so it just echoes this without us having to go to the next line and write echo what do you want your name to be. So this is exactly the same thing as if we would put this into right here. It would show the exact same thing. This part and this part would be exactly the same. So we wouldn't have to write echo. This automatically shows it for us. So if we save this and we try this, I'll show you guys, and it says for us, what do you want your name to be? And then we could write whatever we want, because we're setting what variable x is going to equal. So we could finish creating our name game, or whatever you want to call it. Echo, this is your name, and then it's going to display our name. It's going to display whatever we wrote. So if we try this out, what do you want your name to be? We could set it to whatever we want. Premium Content Studios, PCS. And it's going to say, this is your name, PCS. And we could set it to wherever we want. And we set the variable x equal to whatever we want inside the batch program, inside the batch file, without us actually having to go into the batch file and reset our variable equal to something. It lets us set it inside the batch file. So now that we know this, we could create a simple calculator inside the batch file using what we've learned in the previous tutorials and videos in this series. So we could start off by typing in echo off. So what we did here is we set/p let us write whatever we want to set the variable math equal to. So we could even put this variable as x, and so we're setting x equal to whatever we write, and it's just going to ask us what math equation do you want to do. And to actually let CMD do the math equation, not just to like pause and just show us what we wrote, but to actually do the equation that we wrote, what we would do is we would do set/a like we learned from last video, and we'll do answer equal to the math equation, so x, so the variable that we sent, so whatever we write, so for example if we wrote 8 plus 8, it's going to show that instead of the variable x, every single time we write this variable, it's going to show 8 plus 8, and set/a answer is going to actually let us do the math equation that we wrote, and then we want it to show us what our answer is, so we'll write echo answer, and it's going to show us what the variable answer is, doing the other variable x. X is what we input ourselves, so what we write, whatever we write, and answer is the other equation which solves the whatever we wrote. So if we echo this and then we write pause, it's gonna display our answer, whatever the answer is from what we wrote, and it's gonna pause and let us see what we wrote. So if we try this out, what math equation do you want to do? And we could do anything we want, so 10 plus 9 and 19, and it shows us the answer. And if we press any key, it should close. But if we want to do unlimited equations, we could do our loop that we learned from last time. So we could just make this folder or this directory like we learned from video number 2 in this series, and then after the pause, it's going to go back to it. So it's going to let us redo this all these commands inside of here as many times as we want, and we'll clear after this so that we don't see the previous equation that we did, because that's just going to mess us up. We could type in any numbers we want, and then if we do it, it should give us our number. And if you want to do multiple equations, not just plus, you could do the dash for minus, so 8 minus 1, it's going to do minus, and then we could do multiply by doing the star, so shift 8, holding that, it's going to do the star, so 10 times 8, 80. Then we could divide by doing the slash, so 90 divided by 3, which is 30. And there you go, we've created a calculator using just Notepad and this batch program to create a calculator, which you could do on any Windows computer, which to me, this is what made me also interested in batch programming, because you could create these complicated games, and once you go on to further, you'll be able to create lots of different programs and games, and this is what really captivated me. This is what wanted to make me learn more. So what we've learned from this video is set/p, which lets us make a variable equal to whatever we want inside the batch program, and we could use this set/p and what we've learned in the previous videos to create a simple calculator using batch programming and Notepad.